Hi, in this video, let's attempt to create a cute little robot head in ZBrush. So to get started, the first thing I'm gonna do is let's go to initialize and let's just create a Q sphere instead. So I'm gonna switch it to something like 8 by 8 by 8 and just click on Q sphere. And maybe this could be a good start for the head of the character. Now I wanna point out something important. Whenever I click Q sphere or use any of the initialized tools, you can see how the sphere got somewhat smaller, right? Now, if you go into something like the sub tool and insert a just a default cube, for example, take a look at the size difference, right? The cube is much larger, and this is kind of like a 1 by 1 scale in ZBrush that you want right here in order for all the sculpting brushes to work well. If I just use the tiny little sphere, you can see how it's a little bit smaller and it's a little bit different scale, right? And that could technically affect some of the sculpting tools moving forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my move and just make it just a little bit larger, right? Just so it's kind of in a better alignment with the with the scale, right? Let's say I like this. This is great. I'm going to go ahead and for now just delete the cube. I don't really need it. So for the robot, I'm visualizing something like maybe the bottom of his head could be a little more flat, and then the top can stay round. So to do that, what I can do is I can go to move, I can hold down the control key, and I can literally just flatten the bottom. So something like this. Now when I flatten it this way, you can see if you turn on the polyframe, all of the geometry is just getting smooshed in, but it's kind of maintaining the same topology, which is a really interesting point, right? I'm not cutting it, I'm not clipping it, I'm just smushing it, right? So that's kind of important. And if I wanted to, I can even go to polish and just do something like a polish of 1 and take a look what it's going to do. It's going to clean this up, right? And redistribute all the topology and maintain this beautiful shape while giving me something completely new. It's almost like a little water drop, right? I kind of like this. I think this is great. Let's move forward. So now since we have the shape of the robot's head, let's give him some ears, right? So I'm gonna go on the side and I'm gonna keep a track of my gizmo right here. If I go on the side, how would I create a circular shape for my robot? If I wanted to create something, I can go to Z modeler, hover over this point right here. Let me go to split. I'll do a point. Let's actually switch it to crease. So that's fine. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna literally just drag out a circle like this, and let's say I want this to be my side earpiece. If I turn my fill on, you can see that it's actually is giving us a different poly group whenever we created this, and because I have my active symmetry on, it is going to do it on both sides. So that's an important point, right? Let's continue to do a little more work on this. I'm going to press spacebar while hovering over this one of these triangles. I'm in polygon actions. I'm gonna go to extrude, polygroup all. I'm just gonna take this green one and just pull it out just a little bit. I think that's great. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna extrude it again, but this time give a little bit of a thickness on the side here, right? And the reason I wanna do that is because now I can actually come here, press extrude, poly loop. Let's take this entire loop and keep an eye on this orange line that you're seeing. I'm going to take this loop right here and just pull it out. All right. And take a look. Very quickly, I created something that looks like little robot ears. I think that's awesome. Let me turn the fill off just so I can kind of judge my topology a little bit better. I think this is great. I would love to bevel some of these ears. So to bevel that, I can hover over this edge, go to bevel. Let me do edge loop complete. And maybe I can bevel this something like this. And to repeat the same exact thickness on this side, I can just simply click, and ZBrush will remember the lost bevel size. All right, I think that's pretty cool. Let's decide if we want to add some detail inside this ear. Now, even though I turned the fill off, as soon as I come back and I want to do a little more work on here, let's say I want to press these faces in. Take a look. If I go to Z modeler, press Alt, and start selecting it, you can see ZBrush will automatically turn the fill on. So that's an interesting point. Again, I have active symmetry on, so I'm working on both sides. but I would love to press this in to add some more detail. So let me do that now. I'm gonna go to extrude, single poly. Now it says single poly, but because this is this has been selected, right? Holding down the Alt key, we selected all of these, which means it's gonna treat this selection as a single poly. All right, so now I can just press this in. Take a look. I think that's pretty cool. Now let's say we want to add maybe a bevel, a little more bevel here. So I'm going to go to bevel, edge loop complete. I'll just add a little one right here, and I'll just click to repeat it, right? And finally, let me add just a little more detail inside the ear. I'm just playing, you guys. I'm going to go to split, go to point. Let me just do something like this. All right, let's say I like this here. All right, and if I want to pull this out, I can of course go to extrude, and let's do polygroup all, right? And let's just pull this out just a little bit. Okay, and as I pull it out, let's say I want to take these faces and I want to pull them in, right? So take a look. What I can do is I can press Alt, select, hold on the Alt key. Let me select these here. I want to make sure I didn't select anything anywhere else, which I did. To deselect something, you can just hover over something and just press Alt to deselect it, right? So I just want this clean selection on top. And now to pull all of these in, I can press spacebar, go to scale. I'm on polygon actions, and I can switch it to polygon center for my target, right? And now what I can do is I can just literally just pull these in. And take a look, it's gonna kind of create this tapered effect, which I think is really nice. Let me jump out of the fill and take a look. And here we have cool little robot ears on the side of our character. I think this is awesome. Let's continue doing a little more. Maybe we can give him a couple big eyes. All right, next, let's say we want to add eyes to our character. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna click auto groups to turn everything into one polygroup. And if you press it a few times, you can actually find the color you like. I prefer this blue one better. And let's say I want to give him some eyes. So let's give him not just eyes, let's give him something that maybe looks like, you know, a little more interesting. There's like a face right here of some sort. So what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna go to Z Modeler. Let's hover over this polygon, press space bar. I'm gonna go to, actually, you know what? Let's make a selection first. I'm gonna press Alt. And let's make a selection of these faces here. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a selection of these faces right here. So let me just actually grab all of these here. All right, now I have something, and you know what, I'll grab these two. So essentially I just selected the entire face. That is kind of cool. And let's say I want to create something custom out of this. So what I could do is I can press spacebar, go to poly group, single poly, and I can just simply click on this selection to turn it into a separate poly group. All right, and now what I want to do is I want to take this and sculpt it or shape it into something more round, right? I can of course go with this, and maybe this could be the shape of my essentially face, right? But I want to do something more interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my light box. Let me go to my brushes. And in here, let's find something called smooth. Let's go in there. And in our smooth folder, we have something called smooth groups. All right, I'm gonna double click on that, and ZBrush is gonna say, to use this, make sure you use the shift key, right? And I'm gonna say okay. Now, if I press shift, instead of just having a normal smooth, you can see I have a smooth groups activated, which means I can make my brush a little bit larger. Let me make sure my focal shift is normal. I'm going to switch it to 0. And now if I hold down the shift key with the active symmetry selected, take a look what I could do. I can reshape this polygroup right here, this green one, and essentially make it feel a little more round. And that's what I want. I want my eyes to be a little more round with this connection in the middle, which looks like that, right? Let's say I like this. I think this is pretty cool. And if I wanted to, I can even move these points individually, right? I can hover over this point, for example. I can go to slide, and I'll just leave it by brush radius. And I can literally just slide these. Maybe I want to slide these up a little more, or, you know, I can move these maybe higher. And essentially it's going to slide on the surface, right? On the surface of my of my round surface. It's not going to go in and out. It's going to kind of maintain that roundness, which is great. Next, I would love to pull this in. So I'm going to go to extrude, and I'm going to do, I'm on edge actions. I don't want that. I actually want to be in polygon actions. So I'm going to go to extrude, and you can use extrude or QMesh. QMesh has all the extrude options as well, but I'm going to go to extrude, polygroup all. I'm going to literally take this here and just kind of pull it in. And take a look, it's going to create this really cool inset where we can create some eyes inside. And I'll just make it somewhat deep so it looks kind of cool, right? I like that. And let's say I want to maybe take this entire edge here and I want to bevel it. I can go to bevel. Let me do edge loop complete, and I can literally just bevel just this edge right here. So something like that. All right, as I'm doing this, you can see some points are not beveling as much as I want them to be, and that's totally okay because we have full control over individual point because we're in such low poly. I'm gonna hover over this point here. Let me go to slide, and I'll just take this guy and just slide them down. So maybe I wanna maintain that kind of a bevel thickness all the way around. I can slide this a little bit more. And I like the idea that I can individually control it because that gives me great precision, right? It's super clean, and I think it looks really, really cool. Excellent, let's continue. So the next thing I would love to do now, since we have this inset, let's go ahead and add some eyes just in this section here. And I think for the eyes, instead of using this here, which we could, of course, we could model it from here. I think it would be fun if we just simply inserted something and made it look like it's a separate shape completely. So for that, what I could do is this. I can take this head, I can duplicate it, go back into my initialize, and I can go to initialize here, or I just actually have it dragged out on my UI. So that's the same exact buttons as here. So for if I want to create an eyeball, let's say I want to use another Q sphere, and I'll just simply click, right? Let me jump out of the transparency mode. ZBrush is going to give me another sphere, and if I go into the side view, let me jump out of the perspective view. I could take this sphere and just let's take a look at it. So this is the sphere, and I don't need the poly frame for this right now, but essentially what I could do is I could just decide on the size of my eye, and I'm going to do something like this, and I'm going to literally just put it into position of where I want it to be. Oops, I'm going to turn off my active symmetry for now, and let me just do this side. So I'm going to do something like this. Now, if I pay attention to these loops, maybe I do want this on without the fill. If I pay attention to these loops, I can see that they are not currently aligned with my geometry here, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to literally manually just move them around and make sure that the loop that's going all the way around sort of aligns with my surface. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in a minute. It's because I want to create a little extra border going around the eye. So I'm going to do something like this, right? And if you want, we can even squish it just a little bit more so it doesn't feel like this, you know what I mean? It feels a little more inset, like kind of like it fits in. I kind of like this a lot. I think this is great. Now, what I was telling you is that now what we could do is we can go to ZModeler and let's create a little section that kind of comes out of here, so it looks like this is beautifully part of this interface here, the face interface. So I'm going to press spacebar. Let me go to, I'll just go to extrude again, poly loop. Let's take this here. Let me turn the fill on, do auto groups. What I'm going to do is this. I actually want to mark this loop here and this loop here. So to do that, what I could do is let me go to poly group, poly loop. I'm going to click on this. And by the way, you can click and hold, if you hold on the click and press Alt, you can change the colors of these. So you can decide what polygroup color you like. If I solo this for a minute, I can also select maybe this one and maybe even this one. Right, so all of these are now selected. Very cool. And now what I want to do is this. I want to hover over this, go to extrude, let's do polygroup all. And let's literally just take this entire group and just pull it out. And take a look, it's going to create this awesome inset feel, right, of the eye. If I go jump out of the solo again, you can see what that looks like. It looks pretty cool. Maybe I can take this whole thing, just make it just a little bit smaller. And at this point, this is a good, you know, now we have something to look at. We can move this around and make sure it kind of looks nice, right? So something like that I think is pretty cool. Maybe I can bevel some of these too. I'm gonna turn my fill off for just for seconds. It's nicer to look at. I'm gonna go to zModeler. Let me hover over this here. Press space bar. Let's go to bevel, edge loop complete. Maybe we can bevel this just a little. All right. Now take a look. When I release it, it kind of snaps. If you start dragging and press Control, it will actually hold that small bevel. Cool little trick. I can click here to repeat it. And maybe, you know what? I'm actually going to click here to repeat it, turn my fill on, and you know what I would like to do? I would love to inset this little bevel that I just created. So if I undo it, you can see which one it is, right? If I click here, it's going to repeat, and now it's purple. Maybe that's easy to see. But essentially, I'm going to go to Extrude Polygroup All. I'm going to push this in. All right, just a little bit. Jump out of the, let's jump out of the polyframe and take a look. Now I have this eye. Now I just want to take this eye and flip it to the other side. So I'm already on the left side, so I can just do mirror and weld. And let me make sure I'm on the right layer, which I am. So I'm going to do mirror and weld and take a look. Now I have two of them. All right. So now I have this cool looking face with a couple eyeballs, and we are only at 648 polys. So this is really clean, beautiful, and low poly head so far. Let's continue. By the way, if you're doing this with me, make sure you save your tool. That's very good practice. I'm going to do that now. Save as. All right. Now, since we saved it, let's just do just a little more before maybe we move forward, right? I'm trying to figure out what else can we do. I feel like it would be nice if he had some kind of a panel on top, right? Why not? Let's turn our polyframe back on, go back to zModeler, and let's create a little panel up here. I'm going to press Alt. Let me make a selection of these faces here. Maybe, you know, if you want to get into his brain or his chip, maybe there's like a panel, I don't know, like this. I think that's pretty cool. And let's say I like this. I'm gonna actually, you know what, I would love to design this a little bit better. So let me press Alt, deselect these, and I like these here, but what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna go to Poly Group. Let me do single poly. I'm just gonna simply click to change the color. And I would love to change the shape of this panel in front. I'm going to take these points here, go to slide, and I want to just literally take them and just slide them like this. And take a look, it's going to create this slope right here of the front, which I think is much cooler as far as the panel goes, right? And maybe we can also slide these here, just decide what you like, maybe just a little more like this, so it's not a perfect square, but this to me looks like a cool panel. Of course, if we press Shift, remember we have our smooth groups on, which is even more control. I can literally just do something like that. Maybe that's even better, but using the smooth groups, we could do whatever we want. Let's say I like this for a panel, right? Next, I'm gonna press space bar, go to Extrude, Polygroup All, and I can literally take this and just extrude it into something that looks like a thin panel on top, right? Let's say I like this. Again, I would love to bevel this. I'm gonna hover over this, go to bevel, edge loop complete. Let's just simply click and drag to add a little bit of a bevel right there. Okay. Just like before, some of these points could be adjusted, so I can just literally, I'm still in slide mode. Maybe I can slide them a little more, just kind of make sure they are creating the look that I want. So in this case, this point right here feels like it could be a little more, you know what, take a look, it's actually fighting me, right? The sliding is not working, so I'm not going to use slide. Let me use something like move instead. I want to take this point and just move it up, right? Now I have a little more precise control. So make sure all the points look nice and the bevel looks beautiful, which it does. If I jump out of the fill, now I have something like this. I have this cool little robot head with a little panel on top. And I actually like the fact that these are nice and round. It kind of complements the roundness of the eyes and of course the ears, right? Now this right here feels like maybe it's a little too tight. I'm gonna go to move, and what I'm gonna do, make my brush a little bit larger, make sure active symmetry is on, just very carefully without distorting this too much. I wanna take this and just kind of pull this up. And that is gonna give me, I think, a better spacing, right? Going all the way around. I can even do the same thing here, just take these points here and just move them just a little bit. And I kind of want to make sure this kind of stays straight, but I like this spacing right here just to be a little more. All right, and same thing here. Maybe I can move this down, just adjust my eye spacing. And again, if I wanted to keep this straight, maybe I can straighten this out. Just little adjustments, right? Let's say I like all of this. I feel like he's still missing something. He needs a couple cute little antennas. Let's go ahead and get those going. To get that going, I'm going to take this eye shape, duplicate it. I'm going to go to my Q cylinder, just do, I don't know if I need 8. Let's do 4x4x4 Q cylinder. Grab our move. Let me figure out what it gave me. It gave me something like this. I'm going to change my pivot to the center, recenter, realign it. And now I'm going to do something like this. I'll scale it and just make it longer, right? And take a look now at these antennas. Obviously, before I do anything, I actually would love to taper them. So I'm going to go to the gear icon, go to taper. I'm going to switch it from, let me think. I'm going to actually take this bottom one, and I guess I want this to be like this, like skinnier, and this one to be a little more thick, right? You can use the white cone. You can see you can control the sides. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can control the sides. And I'm gonna go all the way to 0 to make this perfectly straight, right? I like that right here. I'm gonna go to the gear, say accept. Now I have this. All right. Before I put it into a proper position for the antenna, I would love to add a little circle on top. How would I do that? Well, I can duplicate this, create a Q sphere, grab my Q sphere, and just put it into proper position. Again, I just need to realign my pivot. Let me put it right here. And I want to make sure it looks good from all the angles. All right, which it does. And now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take this. I'm going to merge it down with this piece. Say OK. And let's go to the side view. I'm not on perspective view, right? I'm on the orthographical view. I'm going to hold on the shift key to snap. Hold, then use this ring right here to kind of maybe pull it back and just put it into position where the antennas might be. Somewhere right here I think is cool. And maybe I can just turn it as well. And now he has this cute little antenna. If I wanted to create a little bit of a bend, I'm trying to figure out if he needs it or not, but if you wanted to, you can easily add a bend by going into the gear and just do a bend curve. And then using the orange cone, if you add an additional point, you should be able to just kind of bend this a little bit, right? Just do it in such a way where it's not distorted too much. But I think that's even cuter. Go into the gear icon, say accept, take a look. Now we have this. Go back into perspective view. And now I would love to take this antenna and flip it back to the other side, right? So to do that, I'm gonna literally just flip it to the left and then do a mirror and weld. And now I have two, right? Now we have, I think the head is pretty much completed. If I wanted to, let me jump out of the polyframe and take a look. If you want to preview and see how this might look as subdivided version, of course you can press Alt and turn the dynamic on. And the trick about the dynamic is that you must crease your edges in order for this to look nice. So if I turn the dynamic off, you could see that some of these are not being held together properly, right? So let's say I want to crease some of these edges in order for me to subdivide this properly. So essentially, if you don't know, if you press Control D, you can subdivide the model, and that's going to start adding more and more subdivision subdivision or adding more faces. You can see my face count is going up, right? But if you, let me undo that. But if you don't want to do that and you want to maintain your low poly model, but you want to preview it to see how it might look as a high-res version, that's what dynamic's for. Dynamic is like a preview of the high-res version, but the dynamic only works well if you crease your edges. So for example, let's say I want to look at this piece up here. If I turn the dynamic on, you can see how it's kind of just melting together. If I turn that off and go into geometry, I can go into, let's go to crease. Let's do uncrease all, just so we have full control over what we're doing. I'm going to uncrease everything. And now what I can do is I can individually crease each piece, or I can click on the crease borders and set a tolerance angle. Now, if you do this, it will automatically go through and try to pick all of the, all of the edges that ZBrush thinks should be used as a crease. And let's test this. I'm going to switch it to, let's do something like 40 degree angle. I'm going to do a crease. And now if I do dynamic, take a look what's happening, right? ZBrush is trying to hold certain edges, but you can see it's a total mess. It's actually not working well. So maybe instead of doing this automatically, I want to actually manually decide which edges need to be creased. So for that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn the dynamic off. Let me do uncrease all. And instead of telling ZBrush to do it, I can do it myself by going to ZModeler, hovering over each edge I want. So I'm going to go to this one. Let me go to crease, edge loop complete. Maybe I can crease this, and I want to crease this, and I want to crease this, right? So now, since all of these are creased, if I turn the dynamic on again, take a look at the difference. Look how clean and beautiful this looks. So even if I switch this to something like 3, I have this beautiful shape that looks absolutely amazing going all the way around, because I manually decided which edges I want to crease. So now I could do the same exact thing with, for example, the ear, right? Let's say I want to take very specific area. So I want to crease, I'm going to do crease, edge loop complete. I want to crease where the ear starts here. I want to crease this entire loop where the it's going to go from the connection to the ear. I also want to crease this and this because I like this bevel. I love the bevel on this side of the ear, of course. I want all of this to be round, so I'm not going to touch that. But I do want to crease this bevel, this bevel, this bevel, and this one, as well as that and this. All right. So now I just manually chose what to crease. So now if I go to dynamic, take a look at this beautiful clean shape, and that looks amazing in my opinion. This is a lot of fun, you guys. And let's do the same thing with the ears. So not the ears, I'm sorry, with the face. So of course I want to crease this, this, and this. And that is going to be great. Turn the dynamic on, take a look. I have this really sharp, beautiful face. And finally, I think that's pretty much it. I can even go to 4 if I want, right? I can really preview this as something amazing. By the way, if you want to turn on ambient occlusion, and I have this material selected right now, which you can download below this video if you want to grab it, if it's a free material. But if I want to see ambient occlusion with this material, I can turn on something called wax preview and take a look. It's going to add a little bit of ambient occlusion inside this material. I don't know if you could see it well, but it does add a little bit of a shading. So that's kind of cool. I guess I'll leave it off for now. But let me press Alt, select this here, the antennas. And I don't think I need to crease them. I'm just going to Control D and see what I get. I get something like this. So again, I can do Control D, or of course I could have done dynamic. If I go back to here, I can delete higher and just turn the dynamic on. It's the same thing, right? This is just a preview of the subdivided version. Same thing with these. Let's press Alt and let's crease some of this awesomeness before before we lose all the detail. I'm going to solo this and let me decide what I want to crease, right? So I'm gonna go to Z modeler. I probably want to crease this angle here. All right, I like that sharpness there. And also, of course, I like this bevel here and then inside, and inside right there, right? I like that. I'm also liking this sharp edge and this sharp edge. All right, very cool. Let's do a little dynamic preview. Take a look. Very nice. Let me turn it to 4 like I had with the other ones. Jump out of the solo and take a look. Now we have this beautiful clean preview of our robot. You can even do a quick little BPR if you want. So if I do a quick BPR, let's take a look. This is what I have so far. All right, so let me bring up another important point. If you wanted to create additional detail, like sculpting detail on top of the surface of this robot, but at the same time you're making a game model, and it's really important that you maintain the low poly version. So for that, let's say this is a game model. For that, let's do this. Let's turn the dynamic off for each one of these, right? Every single one, I'm going to turn the dynamic off. And let's say I want this topology. I want this to be my game topology, right? But now what I want to do is I want to add some additional details to the surface of this low poly, this low poly robot, right? So what I can do is this. I can select this and I can start subdividing it because everything is creased. If I press Control D, let me go to I'll press it 4 times. So I'm going to be on level 5, right? All right, so now since we subdivided it, you can see I have 180,000 points. And now, I have a little more geometry, but it's not going to be enough. So for example, if I go to my standard brush, let's choose something like the chisel brush, right? Let's say I want to start adding some details on the surface of my robot head right here. So I can turn my lazy mouse on, my active symmetry is on, right? Let me choose my chisel brush, and let's say I want to start chiseling something. All right, so essentially adding lines. Now, as you can see, it's still not enough resolution at 180,000 points, right? So to add this, to make this look nice, I would have to subdivide this a lot more. So I can press Control D a couple times. I'm at 2.8 million points, level 7, and now with the 2.8 million, I should be able to create something much nicer. Maybe in this case, I can just turn my Z intensity down, and maybe I want to create, some kind of a clean panel on top of my robot's head, right? Like an additional detail. Now, here's an interesting point. If you're new to ZBrush, you need to understand that this detail is being held on level 7, right? But it's non-existent on level 1, obviously, because it doesn't have enough geometry, right? So what does that mean? That means if you export this out of ZBrush as a low poly model into something like Substance Painter, for example, you can then dial this back up and export this version out as the high resolution version, and then you can bake them. And then Substance Painter will take this detail and apply it to your low poly version as a texture. So like a normal map, right? A texture normal map will hold all that beautiful detail that you might do on level 7 with all this intricate line work and maybe little bolts and rivets and things. And that's the whole concept. So sometimes if you're brand new to 3D, that's kind of hard to understand, but you do need 2 different versions. A low poly version for like the game engine and animation and rigging. And then you have the high res version for things like baking textures, creating details, and then that's pretty much it. And then if you're posing your character and it's not for a game or animation, then of course topology plays very little purpose, right? Because then who cares what your topology is if you're just posing and rendering a character, right? So then you can just bypass textures and UVs and beautiful topology because you're just creating something impressive, but it's not based on anything except just visuals. So I hope that makes sense. I had to say this for anyone who's brand new. If I want to continue doing this line, you can see that if I go back to the beginning of where I started, it's going to start creating like this additional indentation that maybe I don't want. If you wanted to combat that, one way you could do that is this. I'm going to do this. Let me actually go to level 7 and let me undo this whole thing right here. Let's say I want to start creating lines, but I don't want that effect where it's kind of doing this, right? It's doing this double piece like that. One way you can do that, fix that, is if you go into morph targets, you can turn the morph target on. And now take a look what's going to happen. If I start doing the same exact thing where I just draw a line and maybe connect it right here. If I come back here, take a look, because I'm using morph targets, I can start drawing it and it's not going to have that double indentation again, right? And on top of that, I can actually turn on lazy snap, which tells ZBrush to snap to the last point right here. So now I can come here and just start dragging it, and it's, you know, it's not perfect, but it's very close. And take a look now, I just created this fun little detail that's being held on level 7, right? This right here I'm actually not too thrilled about. Let me just maybe take this corner here and just kind of move it aside a little more. So some tweaking is going to be necessary, right? But I think it's pretty good, right? And then if I wanted to, maybe I can add some more. Let me go back to my chisel brush, and I don't know if I need anything in the back. Maybe I want to add some kind of a detail back here. It looks pretty sweet. All right, maybe I want to add some bolts in here. So instead of sub, I can switch it to add. And instead of using a stroke, I could do something like a drag dot. And let me turn my lazy mouse on and maybe just do a little more intensity. And take a look, now I have these little circles and I can use them as like little bolts going all the way around, right? Maybe this little panel comes off somehow, you know? And that looks pretty cool, right? All right, I can come on this side, and you know, this is where you can create custom alphas. You can create, you can import a million little robot alphas and just kind of stamp your work or panels right on here. All right, and this is also where you can go to the alpha and import something custom. You can download literally millions of custom PSD alphas and just bring them into ZBrush. And then if you bring it as an alpha, you can then literally just stamp it on the surface. And you know, as you stamp it on, let's say I want to stamp something like this here, right? I could do something like that. And the cool thing about this is that, again, it's not going to be part of geometry. In this case, I feel like it's a little too crazy. Let me turn this down to like 30. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. But it's not going to be whatever detail I'm adding here. It's not going to be part of the geometry, right? It's going to be part of the texture or the baking. That's really important to understand. So if I go to geometry and dial this back down, it's non-existent. Nothing that I've done actually exists on the actual topology. So my polygon count is going to be super low, right? Only 700 polys for this model. But again, the high-res version is holding all this awesome detail with the screws and the lines and anything else that you do, right? So that's really important to understand. And that's the reason you want to work with subdivision levels, is that you can have great detail and maintain super low poly efficient topology. I'm going to press Alt, select my eyes, and of course they don't look right because I didn't subdivide them. Let me subdivide these as well. I'll go to like level, what level am I on? 3. Let's go to level 4. And I think that looks nice. I'm going to press Alt, select these, press Control D. Let me subdivide these. I'll go to level 5. You know what? I'll do level 5 on every single one of these, except this one, of course, on level 7. All right, anyway, so that looks really cool. And that is pretty much it as far as like the workflow for creating cool little robots. But let me know if you want me to continue building the rest of it. If I wanted to add a fun little neck, now one thing I will point out, if you go back to level 1, and you turn on your polyframe, and let's say you want to do more modeling, right? If you go to ZModeler and attempt to create something, let's say I want to do something like this, right? And let's say I want to go to hover over this polygon, I want to go to extrude single poly like we've been doing, and attempt to pull this out. It's not going to let me, right? Because I have subdivision levels. So usually you want to subdivide this stuff after you're done modeling on your lowest level, right? Keep that in mind. Otherwise, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to freeze your subdivision levels. And I have to warn you, a lot of times that will break your model. So that's very sad, but that's true. And that's just something to keep in mind as you're building this, right? So if I wanted to maybe, now if I want to do some more work, what I would have to do is I would actually go to level 7, and instead of using the Z modeler to create more stuff, I could maybe just literally sculpt it in. So for example, let's say I want to add a neck. I can go to inflate, and now I can use my sculpting tools because I literally have 2.8 million points right here, right? I can, let's go to sub. Maybe I want to push this in, and maybe I want to use this as my, as my neck, right? All right, and let's say I want to add something in here. I'm going to insert, let me just insert anything. I'll just insert a sphere, right? And what I could do now is I can turn the sphere into, let me turn it into Q cylinder, for example. And maybe I want to start modeling some kind of a neck, right? Out of this. So I could do that. I'm going to jump out of the perspective view. All right, and then what I could do is maybe I can make it a little bit smaller. Maybe I could do something like this. Let me put it into position. Let's turn this into something that could work as a neck, right? What I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna solo this for a minute. And let's say I wanna bevel these. I'm gonna go to Z modeler, hover over this edge. Let me go to bevel, edge loop complete. Maybe I can bevel this, and I'm just gonna click to repeat it. Oops. And I'm gonna click right here on this edge to repeat it. Jump out of the solo, and now I can grab my move, press, let's hold on the control key, make a copy of it, put it right here, then release the control and just maybe drag a couple more. So I have like 4. Do control and drag to get rid of the mask. And now if I wanted to turn this into something fun, I can go to Z modeler, let me go to taper, and I can taper this. I can use this white cone to play around and see what works, what doesn't, but maybe it gets a little bit thicker at the end, and it gets a little, maybe it's more like this actually, right? We can create like this fun little curve. Let's go to the gear, say accept, and take a look. In seconds, we created a nice looking neck. And the cool thing about this neck is that we can kind of insert it inside this opening inside, right? I think that's pretty cool. Let me go to perspective view, take a look. Now our robot has a nice little neck. And of course, just like with all the other pieces, we can do Control D to subdivide this. Let me subdivide this same as, go to level 5. And now I have this awesome little shape there. All right, let's do a quick BPR. When you do a BPR, you can see the shadow is so strong down here. I can always go to, let me go to my render, and I can go into BPR shadows, and right here this global shadow strength, I'm gonna turn it down to like, I usually turn it down to like 0.35 or something, and then click BPR again. Take a look now. It's much better. I like the strong shadow in the ground, but I don't want it to interfere with the model that I'm looking at. So keep that in mind. If you want to add a little bit of a gradient just for fun when you're clicking BPR, that's really easy to do. You just go to BPR filters, turn this thing on, go to noise, and switch it to something like vignette. And then change the color to maybe like black, and take a look, and I have this nice gradient, and that will only work when you click the BPR. Right, that's pretty cool. If you want to make this a little bit sharper, another thing that I love to do is this F3. Turn that on with a little radius. It adds a little bit of a sharpness. Nice for YouTube screenshots, you guys. All right, so I think I'll stop here. If you find this useful, and again, you want me to build the rest of this robot, let me know in the comments, and I would love to do that. But as I'm looking at this, I really think he came out really, really cute. The one thing that I would love to do is I'm going to press Alt on his eyes, choose H polish, make it super large, make sure my active symmetry is on. And you know what? I would love to just take this here. And so something like that. I like this idea of this being flat for some reason. I think that looks really awesome. All right, so thank you for joining me. Please consider subscribing. Share this with anyone who you think might find this useful. Jump into our Discord. We do some fun challenges, and you can talk to me and ask questions. And of course, it would be amazing if you join my channel as a member. That helps me continue making content and, moving things along. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you in our next video.